I'm Miss Linda, one of the teachers in Godly Quest. Remember when we were doing classes in the church, we were talking about saints. We talked about St. Nicholas, and remember he was kind of like Santa Claus. And then we talked about St. Valentine, right around the time that we were celebrating Valentine's Day. Well, today we're going to talk about St. Patrick's. His symbol is a shamrock or a three-leaf clover. So that's what I'm wearing, and usually it's green. When people do celebrate the St. Patrick's Day, they wear green. Sometimes they go to a parade. Chicago has a big parade, and they say they turn the river green in Chicago. I haven't seen it yet. So today we're going to talk about St. Patrick. We're going to see why we remember him as a saint, and why he is a saint, and what his life was like. So St. Patrick, we have all of our information right here in this box as usual. Here's a picture of St. Patrick right here. I'll bring it a little closer. He is one of the world's most popular saints. And all over the world, St. Patrick's Day is celebrated. But why do we remember him? He was born in England, which is on an island, in about 390, which is about 390 years after Jesus died on the cross. So he's one of our saints that was born the longest ago, being born in 390. He was born in England, and he was living in England, and his dad and his grandfather were both priests. So he had learned about Christ as a child, learned about Jesus in his studies, and studied the Bible with his grandfather and his father. Well, one day when he was about 15 or 16, he was out on the cliffs near where he lived in England, and he heard crunching and digging, and he looked out, and there's big boats scraping and landing on the rocks near where he lived. They were being pulled up onto the beach. Pirates got out of the boat and carried away him with other people to be slaves and sell them. He was one of the people that were captured by the pirates and was brought onto the boat. So they brought Patrick to another country, which was Ireland. And in Ireland, he was sold to work with someone who raised sheep. So Patrick had to leave his home and became a slave. Let's put our materials on our felt like we did. You'd think it should be green, but actually since he lived on an island, this is the color of sand. So here's the boat that we talked about. And over here, so you can keep remembering and seeing a picture of St. Patrick's, here's his picture with his robe on. So the man who bought Patrick had him watch his sheep. He went into a wild country and spent time with the sheep, taking care of them, and he lived in a small hut. He had a few dogs to help him. He became very, very friendly with the dogs. The dogs were really helpful to him, and he really cared for the dogs and the sheep. But he was alone, far away from people that he was raised with, far around from his family. He spent a lot of time praying. In fact, they say that St. Patrick, he was Patrick at that time, prayed as many as 100 times a day. And the prayers gave him some peace of mind. It's interesting that he was so isolated. Kind of like the way we are isolated now in our home. And sometimes praying will help. His love for God grew even though he was all alone. He knew that God loved him, and God had a plan. He knew that God would take care of him. One day, he heard again waves crashing on the shore. Patrick to the edge of the cliffs and looked down, there was another ship. Not this one, but a different ship. This ship had sailors and a bunch of dogs. They were Irish dogs. The dogs would not get on the boat. They were frightened of the big boat. So when Patrick saw this happening and he saw the dogs were really frightened, he jumped down from the cliff and walked in the midst of the dogs that would not get on the boat. He began to talk to them softly and help them feel more confident, and he walked them right onto the ship. The sailors decided that Patrick should go with them, and that's how he escaped from Ireland. Ireland was a very hard place for him to live because they didn't believe in Jesus, and he wanted to go back to where he could be with his family. When he got home, he wanted to go to school so he could be a priest. He spent time in the monastery and studied the Bible. One night, Patrick dreamed he saw Ireland. Now, he was living in England, and he's dreaming of the place where he worked with the sheep and he was a slave. And he saw in his dream many people holding out their arms and saying to him, "Come and walk by us again." Now, as I said, the people in Ireland didn't believe in Jesus, and he felt he could bring the words of the Bible to the people in Ireland. So Patrick went. Here, let's put the symbol of Patrick out, just like the one I have here. Patrick took a boat, and he went to Ireland. And he was a priest, and this is the shepherd's staff that he also used when he was a priest in Ireland. The people in Ireland were called Druids. Druids believe in nature gods and worshiped rocks and trees. Patrick went and visited them and told them about Jesus. He traveled all over Ireland. He made friends with local kings, and they allowed him to preach about Jesus to the people in their area. Many of the people of Ireland became Christians. Patrick talked about God using simple examples like this, the shamrock or the three-leaf clover. He said to them, "This is a symbol of God." When they asked him, how could the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost be three different gods and still be the same God? So he took and cut a piece of clover out of the grass that was all around him in Ireland. And clovers generally have three leaves like this. If you get a real special one, it will have four. We used to look for them when I was a kid, look for four-leaf clovers. But most of them have three, just like this. And he said, this is a symbol of God. One part is God, one part is Jesus, and one part is the Holy Ghost. And they're all brought together as one. So that was a simple way he explained about Jesus and God and the Holy Ghost. Many of the people he talked to became Christians. Patrick's courage and faith helped him return to the land of Ireland, which was a very hard place for him to be. But his heart was so filled with the life of Jesus, he wanted to risk everything to help people of Ireland to know God and see how God's love could transform every corner of their lives. Well, now let's put a few things back here, and this is a picture of St. Patrick. As you can see, he lived a long time ago, and he looks a little different and dressed a little bit different. But you can see he has the stole that, like our rector, Nadia, and priests will wear. So we'll put that here. And he's carrying a three-leaf clover. I just noticed that. And so here's the three-leaf clover that he used as a symbol. Here's the staff he used when he became a priest. And here's the boat. First the boat that took him to Ireland as a slave, and then the boat also that he used with the dogs to get them on to their boat. Well, what kind of gifts? St. Patrick was a very gifted individual. He had some specific abilities that helped him in his life. He believed in God, and that was important in his life, so that was a gift. He also knew how to take care of dogs, and he was very kind to dogs. In some ways, he was like a dog whisperer, and that was a part of his life that was a gift. He also loved people around him. He even loved the people of Ireland, even though they weren't good to him. So we can learn about the saints. If we were in our classroom, we would be probably using a four-leaf clover and write something down about the saints. Maybe when you get a chance, you can talk to your mom or your dad or your siblings about things that you felt were important to St. Patrick's and what made him special and what kind of gifts he had. He certainly was a loving man, and he even loved dogs, and he loved the people of the world. So this is another time we get to be together. I hope we'll do another one together, and then be in church hopefully soon. Have a very blessed week. Remember, you all have gifts to help other people, just like St. Patrick.